The bridge of the research vessel times Kethmaran times trembled as another plasma blast struck their failing shields. Captain Zex-High clutched the command chair, her forearms working frantically across the control interfaces, while her crew scrambled to maintain what little power they had left. "Shield integrity at 12%, called out Navigator Pelthon, his usually calm voice cracking with stress. "We cannot sustain another direct hit." Through the main viewport, the sleek predatory shapes of 3 Vakari destroyers closed in like hunting beasts. Their black hulls seemed to absorb the light from the nearby star, making them appear as moving voids in space. The Vakari had been the terror of this sector for decades, their technology far superior to most civilizations they encountered. "How long until the hyperdrive is operational?" Zex-High demanded, knowing the answer would not be what she wanted to hear. Chief Engineer Mortek's voice came through the comm system, strained and exhausted. "The hyperdrive motivator is completely fried, Captain. Even if we had replacement parts, we would need at least 6 hours for repairs." 6 hours. They would not last 6 minutes against the Vakari. The Times Kethmaran Times was not a warship. It was a scientific research vessel, tasked with studying the effects of solar radiation on crystalline formations in asteroid fields. The crew of 43 scientists and support staff had been conducting routine measurements when the Vakari patrol had detected them. Now they were trapped. Their peaceful mission turned into a desperate fight for survival. Another impact shook the ship violently. Warning lights bathed the bridge in pulsing red, while alarms screamed throughout the corridors. Zex-High watched helplessly as their shield generator finally gave out completely, leaving them defenseless against the next attack. "Captain, Communications," Officer Yelnara spoke up from her station. "I am detecting an unusual signal pattern from one of the nearby systems." "What kind of signal?" Zex-High asked, though her attention remained focused on the approaching Vakari ships. "It appears to be a distress beacon response protocol," Yelnara replied, her fingers dancing across her console. "Very primitive compared to our technology, but the signal structure suggests an advanced civilization. They seem to be monitoring this region of space." Hope flickered in Zex-High's chest. Any civilization that had developed faster than light communication might be able to offer assistance. Even if they could not fight the Vakari directly, perhaps they could provide sanctuary or safe passage. "Can you establish contact?" she ordered. "Attempting to open a channel now, Captain." The main screen flickered, and static filled the audio feeds. Then, gradually, an image resolved. Zex-High found herself looking at the strangest alien she had ever encountered. The being had only 2 arms and 2 legs, with pale skin and patches of brown fur on the top of its head. Most unusual of all were its eyes. They looked directly forward instead of to the sides, suggesting this species had evolved as predators. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy," the alien spoke in a clear, measured voice. The translation systems worked perfectly, indicating this species had encountered galactic communication protocols before. "We received your distress signal. Please state the nature of your emergency." "Admiral Chen," Zex-High began, trying to keep her voice steady as another Vakari shot rang against their hull. "I am Captain Zex-High of the Kethmaran Research Consortium. We are under attack by Vakari forces. Our shields are down, and our hyperdrive is disabled. We have 43 souls aboard and request immediate assistance." The human admiral's expression changed subtly, though Zex-High was not familiar enough with human facial expressions to interpret the meaning. "Vakari forces? You said? How many ships?" 3 destroyer-class vessels, Zex-High replied. "We are not equipped for combat. We are scientists." "Understood," Admiral Chen nodded. "Captain Zex-High, you are about to receive assistance. Please maintain your current position if possible, and prepare for the arrival of Allied forces." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Zex-High staring at the blank screen. She felt both relief and uncertainty. The human had spoken with such confidence, as if 3 Vakari destroyers were merely a minor inconvenience. But what kind of force could this Terran Federation possibly send that could challenge the infamous Vakari fleet? "Captain," Pelthon called out urgently, "the Vakari are moving into attack formation. They are preparing to finish us." Zex High watched as the three enemy vessels arranged themselves in a triangle formation around the Times Keth Moran asterisk. It was a classic Vakari tactic. Zold. Surround the prey and eliminate it with synchronized fire. No ship had ever survived such an attack. All hands, brace for impact, she announced over the ship's internal communications. Emergency protocols are now in effect. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, securing loose equipment and taking emergency positions. In the medical bay, Dr. Hilanas prepared treatment areas for the wounded that would inevitably follow. In engineering, Mortek and his team worked desperately to restore even minimal power to their defensive systems. Minutes crawled by like hours as the Vakari ships powered up their main weapons. Zex High could see the energy building in their primary plasma cannons, the distinctive blue glow that had been the last thing countless victims had witnessed. Then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open just beyond the Vakari formation. A massive rift in reality appeared, crackling with energy and distorting the light from distant stars. From this impossible wound in space, a ship emerged. But calling it a ship was inadequate. The vessel that materialized was larger than anything Zex High had ever imagined. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull, a study in functional beauty, the design was clearly human in origin, with clean lines and purposeful geometry. Along its length, Zex High could see rows of weapon ports and launch bays that spoke of devastating firepower. By the ancestors, Pelthon whispered. What kind of civilization builds ships that large? The human dreadnought positioned itself between the Times Keth Moran Times and the Vakari destroyers with casual ease. Its communications array came to life, broadcasting on all frequencies in the universal trade language. Vakari vessels. This is the TFS Times Unconquerable Times of the Terran Federation Navy. You are ordered to stand down immediately and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. The Vakari response was predictable. The three destroyers immediately opened fire on the human ship with everything they had. Plasma beams and particle cannons unleashed their fury against the dreadnought's shields, creating spectacular light shows as the energy weapons struck the protective barriers. The human ship absorbed the attack without so much as a tremor. Captain, Yelnara reported from her communication station, I am detecting additional hyperspace signatures. More ships are arriving. The spatial rift that had delivered the Times, Unconquerable Times, began pulsing with renewed energy. Another ship emerged. Then another. These vessels were smaller than the massive dreadnought, but still impressive in their own right. Sleek cruisers and frigates that moved with predatory grace. Each ship that emerged took position in a growing formation around the Vakari forces. How many ships are coming through? Zex High asked, though she was beginning to understand that she had seriously underestimated this Terran Federation. Scanning now, Captain, Pelthon replied, his voice filled with awe. I count 12. No. 18 vessels. Wait. More are still emerging. The Vakari, who had initially maintained their aggressive posture, began to show signs of uncertainty. Their formation started to loosen as they found themselves increasingly outnumbered and outgunned. The largest of their destroyers attempted to break away from the engagement, but human frigates moved to intercept with surprising speed. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the communication system again, this time addressing the Vakari directly. Vakari fleet, you have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted from this system. Continued hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. One of the Vakari captains, apparently deciding that retreat was preferable to annihilation, began powering down his weapon systems. The other two ships followed suit, their energy signatures dropping to minimal levels. The brief skirmish was over before it had truly begun. This is Admiral Chen to Captain Zex High. The human's voice returned to its previous helpful tone. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Are you in need of medical assistance or engineering support? Zex High realized she had been holding her breath. The entire engagement had lasted less than 5 minutes. Yet the humans had responded with such overwhelming force that the notorious Vakari had surrendered without firing another shot. Admiral Chen, we have some injured crew members, and our hyperdrive requires significant repairs, she replied. We are grateful beyond words for your assistance. Medical and engineering teams are being dispatched to your vessel now, Chen responded. Captain, if I may ask, what was your research mission in this system? We were studying crystalline formations in the asteroid fields, Zexhai explained. Our work focuses on how different types of stellar radiation affect mineral structures over time. There was a brief pause before Admiral Chen replied. Fascinating. Our xenogeology teams would be very interested in comparing notes with your research. Perhaps, once your ship is repaired, your crew would consider a brief stop at our research station in the Kepler system? Zexhai looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They had gone from facing certain death to receiving an invitation for scientific collaboration in the span of minutes. The whiplash of emotions was almost overwhelming. We would be honored, Admiral Chen, she replied. As the first human shuttles approached the Times Kethmaran asterisk, Zexhai reflected on how dramatically her understanding of the galaxy had shifted. She had always known that there were civilizations more advanced than her own, but the humans had displayed a level of military capability that bordered on the incomprehensible. 3 Vakari destroyers had been neutralized by what appeared to be merely the advance guard of a much larger fleet. What kind of species responded to a simple distress call, with enough firepower to level a small moon? The airlock cycled as the first human rescue team came aboard. They moved with efficient professionalism, immediately taking charge of medical triage and damage assessment. Their equipment was compact but obviously sophisticated, and they worked with the kind of practiced competence that spoke of extensive experience in emergency situations. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, the human medical officer, approached Zexhai with a warm smile. Captain, I'm here to help with your injured crew. Do you have anyone in critical condition? 3 crew members in the medical bay, Zexhai replied. They were caught by a power coupling explosion when our shields failed. We'll have them stabilized in no time, Dr. Rodriguez assured her. Human medical technology has proven quite adaptable to treating other species. As the rescue operation continued around her, Zexhai found herself wondering about these humans. They spoke of their technology and capabilities with casual confidence, as if responding to distress calls with overwhelming military force was simply standard procedure. Their equipment was clearly advanced, yet they offered assistance to complete strangers without hesitation or demand for compensation. Captain Zexhai, Admiral Chen's voice came through the bridge speakers again. I wanted to update you on the situation with the Vakari vessels. They have been escorted to the edge of the system and warned that any further aggressive actions in this region will be met with severe consequences. Your research can continue without interference. Admiral, I must ask, Zexhai said. How were you able to respond so quickly to our distress call? And with such force? There was a slight chuckle in Admiral Chen's voice. Captain, the Terran Federation maintains rapid response fleets throughout this galactic arm. When we received your distress signal, the nearest task force was only 3 light-years away. As for the size of our response, she paused thoughtfully. Well, we have learned that it is better to arrive with overwhelming force than to find ourselves outgunned. The answer was both enlightening and disturbing. If the humans maintained fleets capable of overwhelming Vakari forces throughout the galaxy, what did that say about their overall military strength? And why had no other civilization encountered them before? Admiral, forgive my curiosity, but are the Terrans new to this region of the galaxy? Not new, exactly, Chen replied. We have been active in this galactic arm for about 50 years. However, we generally prefer to avoid contact unless circumstances require it. Today, circumstances required it. Engineer Commander James Park materialized on the bridge, having been beamed over from one of the human ships. His casual use of matter transportation technology was another reminder of how advanced these humans truly were. Captain Zexhai, he said with a friendly nod. I've assessed your hyperdrive damage. The good news is that our engineering teams can have you operational again within 2 hours. The bad news is that you might want to consider upgrading your shielding systems before venturing into contested space again. 2 hours? Zexhai asked in amazement. Our own engineers estimated 6 hours minimum, Commander Park grinned. Different tools, different methods. We have some techniques that can accelerate the repair process significantly. As human engineering teams swarmed through the Times Kethmoran asterisk, Zexhai began to understand that she had encountered something truly remarkable. The humans possessed technology that surpassed anything she had previously imagined. Yet they used it not for conquest, but for protection and assistance. The question that troubled her was simple. If humanity possessed this level of capability, why were they not the dominant force in the galaxy? Perhaps, she thought as she watched the efficient rescue operation continue around her, they already were. Captain Zexhai stood in the Times Kethmoran's Times Observation Lounge, watching through the reinforced transparent aluminum as more human ships continued to arrive through the spatial rift. What had started as an impressive rescue force had grown into something that defied her understanding of military logistics. The latest count from her navigator showed 47 vessels of various classifications, from the massive Times, unconquerable Times down to swift reconnaissance corvettes. Captain, Dr. Rodriguez approached with a satisfied expression. The last of your injured crew members has been treated and released. The burns from the power coupling explosion were more severe than initially assessed, but our cellular regeneration therapy had them healed within 30 minutes. Cellular regeneration therapy? Zexhai repeated, trying to process yet another casual mention of impossible technology. You can regrow damaged tissue in minutes? Standard emergency medical procedure, the human doctor replied with a shrug. Though I will say, your people's physiology is fascinating. The redundant organ systems suggest evolution on a world with significant environmental hazards. Your species must be remarkably hardy. Before Zexhai could respond, the ship's internal communications crackled to life. Captain to Observation Lounge. Please report to Docking Bay 2. We have VIP guests coming aboard. Curious and somewhat apprehensive, Zexhai made her way through the corridors of her ship. The human engineering teams had transformed the Times Kethmoran Times in just 2 hours. Not only had they repaired the hyperdrive, but they had also upgraded several critical systems along the way. The power distribution network now operated at 15% higher efficiency, and the shield generators had been enhanced with what the humans casually referred to as basic improvements. Docking Bay 2 had been converted into a temporary meeting area. A small human shuttle sat in the center of the bay, its sleek design making the Times Kethmoran's Times own shuttles look primitive by comparison. As Zexhai approached, the shuttle's ramp lowered with a quiet hiss, and several figures emerged. Admiral Chen led the group, her crisp uniform decorated with insignia that suggested considerable combat experience. Behind her walked 2 other officers, a tall man with graying temples wearing the insignia of a fleet admiral, and a woman whose uniform bore markings Zexhai did not recognize. Captain Zexhai, Admiral Chen said with a warm smile. Allow me to introduce Admiral Marcus Thompson, commanding officer of the 3rd Fleet, and Dr. Elena Vasquez, our chief xenobiologist. Zexhai felt her forearms trembling slightly as the implications hit her. This rescue operation had been conducted by what the humans considered a single fleet unit. The overwhelming force that had made the Vakari retreat without a fight was merely one of multiple such formations. Admiral Thompson, Dr. Vasquez, she managed, performing the traditional Keth greeting by crossing her arms over her chest. I am honored by your presence, though I confess I am somewhat overwhelmed by the scale of your response to our distress call. Admiral Thompson chuckled, a deep rumbling sound. Captain, I understand your confusion. Perhaps we should explain the situation more clearly. Dr. Vasquez, would you care to brief our new friends on the current state of galactic affairs? The xenobiologist stepped forward, consulting a small device in her hand. Captain Zexhai, how much does your species know about the overall structure of this galactic arm? We are aware of perhaps 24 civilizations within our local cluster. Zexhai replied carefully. Our technology allows us to travel perhaps 50 light-years from our home system, though rarely do we venture more than 20 light-years from established trade routes. Dr. Vasquez nodded thoughtfully. That explains a great deal, Captain. There are over 230 intelligent species within a 500 light-year radius of your position. The vast majority exist within what we term the protected zone, regions of space where predatory species like the Vakari are not permitted to operate. Protected by whom? Zexhai asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. By the Terran Federation and our allies, Admiral Thompson replied matter-of-factly. For the past 50 years, humanity has maintained peacekeeping fleets throughout this region. The Vakari, along with several other aggressive species, have been contained to specific sectors where they can engage in whatever territorial disputes they choose without threatening peaceful civilizations. The casual way he described containing entire species made Zexhai's head spin. Admiral, forgive me, but how large is the Terran Federation's military? Admiral Chen and Admiral Thompson exchanged glances. Captain, Chen said carefully, the Third Fleet alone maintains over 400 active vessels. The Federation operates 12 such fleets in this galactic arm, plus rapid response units, exploration commands, and specialized task forces. Mathematics had never been Zexhai's strongest subject, but even she could calculate the staggering implications of those numbers. If the human military possessed nearly 5,000 ships of the quality she had witnessed today, they represented a force that could dominate any known civilization. But why? She asked desperately. Why would you commit such resources to protecting species you have never even contacted? Dr. Vasquez smiled sadly. Captain, humanity learned some very hard lessons during our early expansion into space. We discovered that the galaxy can be a very dangerous place for peaceful species. We also learned that sitting back and allowing genocide to occur, because it is not our problem, is morally unacceptable. You have witnessed genocide? Zexhai whispered. Personally, no, Doctor, Vasquez replied. But our records from the early contact period document the extinction of 17 species by aggressive neighbors. We decided that such tragedies would not happen again. Not while we had the power to prevent them. Admiral Thompson gestured toward the viewports, where the human fleet maintained its protective formation. Captain, what you see here is not unusual. Every day, human forces respond to distress calls throughout this region. Most of the time, our mere presence is enough to resolve the situation peacefully. Like today, Admiral Chen added. The Vakari have encountered our forces before. They know that attacking civilian vessels in protected space will result in immediate and overwhelming retaliation. Zexhai struggled to process the magnitude of what she was learning. Admiral, if humanity possesses such military capability, why have we never encountered your people before? Surely a civilization with your resources would be well known throughout the galaxy. We prefer a light touch, Admiral Thompson explained. Direct intervention only when absolutely necessary. Most species in the protected zone never need to know we exist. They simply live their lives in peace, conducting research like yours, engaging in trade, exploring the cosmos. That is how it should be. Engineer Commander Park's voice came through the ship's communication system. Admiral Chen, the Times Keth Moran's Times repairs are complete, and all systems have been tested. She is ready for space. Excellent work, Commander, Admiral Chen replied. Then, turning back to Zexhai, she continued. Captain, your ship is now fully operational and significantly improved. You are free to continue your research mission or return to your home system as you choose. But first, Dr. Vasquez interjected with obvious excitement. We would very much like to learn more about your crystalline formation studies. Our own xenogeology department has been tracking similar phenomena in several systems, but we lack the specialized expertise your people have developed. The offer of scientific collaboration was exactly what Zexhai had hoped for when she first sent her distress signal. But now, knowing what she knew about humanity's true nature, the invitation carried implications far beyond simple academic exchange. Dr. Vasquez, I would be honored to share our research. But I must ask, what does the Terran Federation expect in return for the protection you provide? What do you gain from maintaining such an expensive and extensive peacekeeping operation? Admiral Thompson's expression grew serious. Captain, we gain the knowledge that peaceful species like yours can pursue their dreams and ambitions without fear. We gain the understanding that somewhere in this galaxy, Children grow up in safety, and scientists make discoveries that benefit everyone. We gain the certainty that the galaxy is becoming a better place. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, yet Zexhai found it difficult to believe. No species committed such resources without expecting something in return. "Admiral," she said carefully, "surely there must be some practical benefit to humanity. Resources, territory, strategic advantage?" Dr. Vasquez laughed, but not unkindly. "Captain, humanity controls more resources than we could use in 1,000 years. Our territory spans multiple galactic arms, and our strategic position is unassailable. We maintain the peacekeeping fleets because it is the right thing to do. But also," Admiral Chen added with a slight smile, "because peaceful civilizations make much better neighbors than aggressive ones. A galaxy full of scientists and explorers is far more interesting than one dominated by conquerors and pirates." As if summoned by their conversation, the bridge communications officer's voice echoed through the ship. "Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Kethmaran Research Consortium. They are requesting an immediate status report." Zexhai felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. How could she possibly explain what had happened? How could she describe to her superiors that their research vessel had been saved by a military force that operated on a scale beyond anything previously imagined? "Admiral Chen," she said, "I believe my government will want to establish formal contact with the Terran Federation. This rescue operation will need to be reported, and there will be many questions." "Of course," Admiral Chen replied. "We would welcome formal diplomatic relations with the Kethmaran Research Consortium. Dr. Vasquez can provide you with the appropriate contact protocols." Dr. Vasquez produced another small device and handed it to Zexhai. "This contains communication frequencies and diplomatic procedures for establishing contact with Federation authorities. Your government will be assigned a diplomatic liaison who can answer questions and facilitate any desired cooperation." The device was smaller than Zexhai's palm, yet she suspected it contained technology more advanced than anything in her ship's computer core. Another casual demonstration of human capabilities that redefined her understanding of what was possible. "Captain," Admiral Thompson said, "there is one more thing you should know. The Vakari ships we encountered today will undoubtedly report this incident to their superiors. It is possible that you or your research consortium may encounter increased scrutiny from aggressive species who see any association with humanity as a potential threat." The warning sent a chill through Zexhai's body. "Are you saying that your assistance may have put us in greater danger?" "Quite the opposite," Admiral Chen assured her. "Any species foolish enough to retaliate against Federation allies quickly learns the error of their ways. However, we want you to understand that contacting us changes your status in galactic politics. You become part of our sphere of protection, which carries both benefits and responsibilities." "What sort of responsibilities?" Zexhai asked. "Simple ones, Dr. Vasquez replied. "Continue your peaceful pursuits. Treat other species with respect. Share your scientific discoveries with the broader galactic community. Refrain from developing weapons of mass destruction. Basically, continue being exactly what you already are." The requirements seemed almost absurdly reasonable, yet Zexhai understood that they represented something profound. Humanity was offering her people protection and partnership, but they were also establishing behavioral expectations that would fundamentally reshape how the Kethmaran Research Consortium related to the galaxy. "Admiral," she said finally, "I accept your offer of friendship and protection. My government will need to review the formal agreements, but I believe they will find your terms more than acceptable." "Excellent," Admiral Thompson smiled. "Now I believe Dr. Vasquez mentioned something about comparing crystalline formation research. The Federation Science Council is always eager to expand our understanding of geological processes." As the human delegation prepared to return to their ships, Zexhai realized that her simple research mission had fundamentally changed the destiny of her entire species. They had sought help from unknown aliens and found themselves under the protection of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. She wondered if other species had experienced similar revelations when they first encountered humanity. How many civilizations had sent out desperate distress calls only to discover that they lived in a galaxy where someone was watching, someone was protecting, someone cared enough to arrive with overwhelming force when peaceful people were threatened? The human shuttle departed with the same quiet efficiency with which it had arrived. Through the observation lounge windows, Zexhai watched as the massive Federation fleet began to disperse. Some ships disappeared into hyperspace, presumably returning to patrol duties elsewhere. Others formed up around the Times, unconquerable Times, in preparation for departure. Only a small escort of 6 vessels remained in the vicinity, maintaining a protective formation around the Times Kethmaran Times as her crew prepared to resume their research mission. Captain, Navigator Pelthon appeared beside her. The humans have uploaded new stellar cartography data to our navigation systems. The charts show safe passage routes throughout this entire galactic arm, along with the locations of Federation emergency response stations. Zexhai studied the data on her personal tablet, marveling at the comprehensive nature of the information. The humans had not simply rescued them. They had provided her people with a roadmap to the galaxy that would ensure they never faced such danger again. Yet questions remained. If humanity possessed such overwhelming power and maintained such extensive operations throughout the galaxy, why were they virtually unknown? How had they managed to become the secret guardians of hundreds of species without any of those species being aware of their existence? And perhaps most importantly, what had driven humanity to assume such a massive responsibility for galactic peace? She suspected she would be pondering these questions for a very long time. 3 weeks after the rescue, Captain Zexhai found herself aboard the Federation Research Station Times New Horizons *, orbiting the 4th planet in the Kepler system. The massive installation dwarfed even the largest space stations she had previously encountered, stretching nearly 10 kilometers in length and housing over 50,000 personnel from dozens of different species. Dr. Elena Vasquez led her through the xenogeology laboratories, where Kethmoran crystalline samples were being analyzed, using equipment that seemed to operate on principles Zexhai could barely comprehend. The collaborative research project had exceeded all expectations, with human scientists demonstrating an enthusiasm for learning that matched their impressive technological capabilities. Your people's understanding of mineral formation under high radiation conditions is remarkable, Dr. Vasquez explained, as they paused before a holographic display showing molecular structures. We have been studying similar phenomena for decades, but your research has provided insights that would have taken us years to discover independently. Zexhai nodded, though her attention was divided between the fascinating research and the steady stream of questions that had been troubling her since the rescue. Dr. Vasquez, may I ask you something that has been bothering me? Of course, Captain. During our first meeting, Admiral Thompson mentioned that humanity had learned hard lessons during early expansion into space. I have been wondering about the nature of those lessons. Dr. Vasquez's expression grew somber. She gestured toward a quiet corner of the laboratory where they could speak privately. Captain, that is not a pleasant story. Are you certain you want to hear it? I need to understand, Zexhai replied firmly. My government is considering formal alliance with the Federation, and they have asked me to prepare a comprehensive report. Understanding humanity's motivations is crucial to that analysis. Dr. Vasquez sighed deeply. Very well. When humanity first developed faster-than-light travel, approximately 150 years ago, we were much like your people are now. We were explorers, scientists, eager to discover what wonders awaited us among the stars. She activated a holographic display showing a star map of human expansion during the early contact period. Our first encounters with alien civilizations were largely positive. We established trade agreements, exchanged scientific knowledge, and believed that the galaxy was full of peaceful species, much like ourselves. The display shifted, showing the locations of several extinct civilizations marked in red. Then we encountered the hegemony of Korthok. They were conquerors, dedicated to expanding their territory through the systematic extermination of any species they encountered. We learned about them when we attempted to establish contact with a species called the Veltari. Zexhai watched as the holographic display showed the progression of a military campaign. What happened to the Veltari? We arrived at their home system just in time to witness the final bombardment, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. 3 billion civilians dead in a matter of hours. The hegemony had developed weapons specifically designed to render planets uninhabitable. They did not conquer worlds. They sterilized them. The images were too horrific for Zex-Hi to fully process. Did humanity intervene? We tried, Dr. Vasquez replied. Our fleet at the time consisted of 30 ships, mostly exploration vessels with minimal armaments. The hegemony had over 200 warships equipped with technology we had never imagined. We managed to evacuate perhaps 50,000 Veltari refugees before being forced to retreat. The laboratory fell silent except for the quiet hum of scientific equipment. Zex-Hi struggled to imagine the helplessness humanity must have felt, watching an entire civilization die while lacking the power to prevent it. The Veltari were not the first species the hegemony had exterminated, Dr. Vasquez continued. Our investigation revealed that they had been conducting systematic genocide throughout their region of the galaxy for over 2 centuries. Dozens of intelligent species had been wiped out completely. Their planets stripped of resources and then abandoned. Where is the hegemony now? Zex-Hi asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Gone, Dr. Vasquez replied simply. It took humanity 20 years to build the military force necessary to confront them. When we finally returned to hegemony space, we gave them a simple choice. Cease all aggressive expansion and submit to Federation oversight, or face complete annihilation. The holographic display showed the final battle, with hundreds of human ships overwhelming hegemony forces in system after system. They chose to fight. The war lasted 3 years and ended with the complete dissolution of their empire. The surviving hegemony populations were relocated to supervised worlds where they remain under strict monitoring. Zex-Hi felt a chill run through her body. Humanity destroyed an entire interstellar empire? We dismantled an empire that had murdered billions of innocent people, Dr. Vasquez corrected firmly. The military installations were destroyed. The leadership was eliminated, and the capacity for further genocide was permanently removed. But we did not engage in the same kind of wholesale slaughter they had practiced. Hegemony civilians were given the opportunity to live peacefully under Federation protection. The distinction was important, but it did not change the fundamental reality that humanity possessed, the capability to completely eliminate threats on a galactic scale. Dr. Vasquez, how many other aggressive species has the Federation dismantled? 7 major powers over the past century, she replied matter-of-factly. Perhaps 30 smaller groups. In each case, we attempted peaceful resolution first. In each case, the aggressive species chose continued violence over coexistence. The scope of human military operations was staggering. Zex-Hi realized that what she had witnessed during the Vakari incident was merely the tip of an enormous iceberg. Humanity had been fighting wars on a galactic scale for generations, reshaping the political structure of entire regions through the application of overwhelming force. Captain, Dr. Vasquez said gently, I can see that this information is troubling to you, but please understand that humanity did not seek this responsibility. We simply found ourselves in a position where we could not ignore the suffering of innocent species. But the cost, Zex-Hi protested. The resources, the personnel, the constant vigilance required to maintain such operations. How does humanity justify such an enormous expenditure? Dr. Vasquez smiled sadly. Captain, what would you have us do? We possess the technology and resources to prevent genocide, to protect peaceful species, to ensure that children can grow up safely on worlds throughout the galaxy. Knowing that we have this capability, how could we possibly choose to do nothing? Before Zex-Hi could respond, an announcement echoed through the research station. All personnel, we are receiving a priority alert from Sector Command. Stand by for emergency briefing. Dr. Vasquez immediately activated her personal communicator. This is Dr. Vasquez. What is the nature of the alert? Admiral Chen's voice came through the device with crisp urgency. Elena, we have reports of Slaver Guild activity in the Rigel sector. Multiple civilian vessels have gone missing, and intelligence suggests a major population harvest operation is underway. Understood, Admiral. What is the Federation response? The 7th Fleet is moving to intercept, and elements of the 3rd Fleet are providing support. Estimated arrival time at the operation zone is 6 hours. Zex High listened to the exchange with growing understanding. This was how the Federation operated, constantly monitoring galactic communications for signs of aggression, maintaining fleets ready to respond to emergencies anywhere within their sphere of influence, treating each threat to civilian populations as an immediate priority. Captain Zex High, Admiral Chen's voice continued. This provides an excellent opportunity for you to observe Federation operations firsthand. Would you and your crew be willing to accompany the task force as observers? Your government has expressed interest in understanding our military capabilities. The invitation was both fascinating and terrifying. Zex High would have the chance to witness humanity's military machine in action. But she would also be observing what was essentially a small war against an unknown enemy. Admiral, what is the Slaver Guild? Exactly what the name implies, Admiral Chen replied grimly. They abduct civilian populations for sale in black market labor operations. We have been hunting them for 15 years, but they operate from mobile bases and rarely stay in one location long enough for us to track down their command structure. Dr. Vasquez looked at Zex High seriously. Captain, this is your choice. But I think witnessing this operation might answer many of the questions you have about humanity's role in the galaxy. 2 hours later, Zex High found herself aboard the Federation battleship Times. Implacable Asterisk. Watching as a task force of 67 vessels moved through hyperspace toward the Rigel sector, the ship's commander, Captain Jennifer Martinez, had welcomed the Kethmaran delegation aboard and provided them with access to the Tactical Information Center. The Slaver Guild operates differently from the previous threats we have eliminated, Captain Martinez explained as she displayed tactical information on the main holographic projector. They avoid direct confrontation with military forces, preferring to raid isolated civilian targets and retreat before we can respond. The display showed the projected operational area, a region of space containing 14 inhabited systems with a combined population of over 2 billion people. Our intelligence suggests they have already raided at least 4 systems in the past week. The missing population count is approaching 500,000. 500,000 people enslaved in a single week. The scope of the tragedy was almost incomprehensible to Zex High, yet the human officers discussed it with the same professional detachment they might use for any other military operation. Captain Martinez, Zex High asked, how long has humanity been fighting slavery operations? 2, since our first encounter with them 80 years ago, Martinez replied. We have eliminated dozens of smaller groups, but the guild itself has proven remarkably resilient. They adapt quickly to our tactics and have extensive networks of corruption throughout the local governments. You have been fighting the same enemy for 80 years? The same type of enemy, Martinez corrected. Slavery takes many forms throughout the galaxy. Criminal organizations, corrupt governments, economic systems based on forced labor. We combat all of them whenever we encounter them. Admiral Chen's voice came through the ship's communication system. All ships. We are approaching the operational area. Intelligence has identified the guild fleet in the Rigel 7 system. They appear to be in the process of harvesting the civilian population. The task force dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 67 warships appearing simultaneously around the Rigel 7 system. The main tactical display immediately lit up with contact information as the fleet's sensors cataloged everything within detection range. Contact, the sensor operator called out. 23 Slaver Guild vessels in high orbit around Rigel 7b. They are conducting population transport operations. Zex High could see the horrific efficiency of the slaving operation on the tactical display. Large transport ships hung in orbit, while smaller vessels ferried captured civilians up from the planet's surface. The estimated population of the world was 12 million. The slavers had apparently been working for several days to process as many people as possible. This is Admiral Chen to Slaver Guild forces. The message broadcast on all frequencies. You are ordered to immediately cease hostile operations and surrender all captured civilians. This is your only warning. The response came in the form of weapons fire. The Slaver Guild ships opened fire on the nearest Federation vessels, while simultaneously attempting to flee the system with their captured cargo. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority that bordered on the supernatural. Federation ships moved with impossible speed and precision, their weapons systems targeting Slaver Guild vessels with accuracy that left no room for escape or evasion. Within 15 minutes, every guild ship in the system had been disabled or destroyed. The transport vessels containing captured civilians were taken intact, while the military escorts were eliminated with surgical precision. Rescue operations are commencing, Captain Martinez announced. Medical teams are being deployed to treat the civilians, and engineering teams are assessing the transport ships for safe evacuation procedures. Zexhai watched in amazement as hundreds of small craft launched from the Federation vessels, each one carrying rescue teams, medical personnel, and humanitarian supplies. The same military force that had just annihilated an enemy fleet was now conducting a massive rescue operation with equal efficiency. Captain Zexhai, Admiral Chen's voice came through the bridge speakers. You are witnessing the core of Federation military doctrine. Our primary mission is not to destroy enemies, but to protect innocent life. Everything else is secondary to that objective. Over the next several hours, Zexhai observed the systematic evacuation and treatment of nearly 500,000 enslaved civilians. The Federation crews worked with practiced competence, providing medical care, psychological support, and logistical assistance to people from dozens of different species. Admiral, Zexhai asked during a brief lull in the rescue operations, what will happen to these people now? They will be returned to their home worlds, Admiral Chen replied simply. Those whose worlds were destroyed will be offered resettlement opportunities within Federation space. Some will choose to remain and contribute to our various projects. And the Slaver Guild? We recovered detailed intelligence from their ships. Within the next few weeks, we will track down their remaining bases and eliminate them permanently. This particular network has been operating for too long. As the Time's implacable Times prepared to return to Federation space, Zexhai realized that she had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. She had observed a civilization that possessed overwhelming military power, yet used that power exclusively for protection and rescue operations. Dr. Vasquez joined her in the observation lounge as the fleet departed Rigel 7. Captain, do you understand now why humanity maintains such extensive military forces? I am beginning to, Zexhai replied slowly. But I still do not understand how you justify the cost. The resources required to maintain fleets throughout the galaxy, the personnel commitments, the constant vigilance. Captain, Dr. Vasquez interrupted gently. What is the value of freedom? What is the worth of a single life saved from slavery? What price would you pay to ensure that children can grow up safely? The questions hung in the air between them as the Federation task force jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Rigel system peaceful once again. Zexhai spent the journey back to Federation space composing her report to the Keith Moran Research Consortium. She struggled to find words adequate to describe what she had learned about humanity and their role in the galaxy. She had discovered that her people lived in a universe where someone was watching, someone was protecting, someone cared enough to respond to distress calls with overwhelming force. She had learned that the galaxy was not the dangerous, chaotic place she had always believed it to be, but rather a carefully maintained peace enforced by guardians her people had never known existed. Most importantly, she had encountered a species that measured success not by conquest or wealth, but by the number of lives saved and civilizations protected. The humans had built the most powerful military force in galactic history for the sole purpose of ensuring that peaceful species could pursue their dreams without fear. Her report would change everything for her people. They would join the growing community of species under Federation protection, contributing their knowledge and resources to the greater good while enjoying security beyond anything they had previously imagined possible. As she put the finishing touches on her report, Zexhai reflected on the simple distress signal that had started this entire journey. Her people had called for help, expecting perhaps a single rescue ship or a small patrol vessel to respond. Instead, They had discovered that they lived in a galaxy where a full fleet would always come.